cross down to Canberra now and catch up with Liberal MP Julian Leeser, who heads up Parliament's Migration Committee. Thanks for joining us, Julian.
Good to be with you, Chris.
Look, before we get on to the topic du jour, I'm certain as a Sydney-based MP and seeing what unfolded in the CBD yesterday, you'd like to share some thoughts, particularly on the actions of some of the standers by a couple who happen to be immigrants to this country.
Well, I was in the city when this happened. I was reading Laura J's live tweets, actually, to let me know what was happening. And I just think that those bystanders were simply incredible. You know, that they put their own lives at risk to try and apprehend this person was simply an act of great heroism, and we should be very thankful for them. And they are heroes, and we should acknowledge them as such. Yeah,
absolutely. And indeed, that reporting was important. The national debate, the way people are somehow saying we should censor out the fact that this guy was making that Islamist-based chant, surely this has to be put into the public arena in real time. Now, we can all have the debate about whether he's motivated by that or he's just ranting, but surely we shouldn't be live censoring events as they're breaking on our streets.
Well, I was pleased to read Laura J's reports. I was pleased to read the events as she saw them from her perspective. She's a very good quality journalist. I would only expect her to report things that she saw in an accurate manner, and that's what she did.
Now, one other question out of left field before we go on to migration. I've been having a bit to say about our so-called climate change-directed aid program into the Pacific. We get no kudos from that. Here is the Pacific Island nations slapping back at us, saying that we should shut down our #1 export industry at the moment, the coal industry. I mean, this is nonsensical, isn't it? What Pacific Island nations need is good governance, education, health, job opportunities. No matter what they say or do or what Australia says or does, it's not going to change the fact that thanks to China, India and other nations, global carbon emissions are rising and will continue to rise for at least another decade.
Well, the Pacific relationships are very important to us, Chris, and obviously our government is having the Pacific step up, where we're putting more resources into the Pacific and refocusing our efforts there, which I think is very important. I had the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea when he was here in my electorate look at one of the schools which is partnering with one of his schools to deliver high-quality maths education for people in those schools. That is the sort of thing that I think is absolutely vital in relation to the work that we're doing with the Pacific, those improving education standards, as you say. And I note today the Pacific Islands Forum is on, and no doubt there'll be a communique that comes out of that, and I don't doubt that our Prime Minister, as he always does, will stand up for Australia's national interests.
They are wrong to suggest that Australia is doing them damage when it comes to climate change, aren't they?
Well, I think Australia is doing them great benefit when it comes to a range of the services and the like that we provide into the Pacific, whether that's aid services or defence services or indeed even assistance that we give them, I suspect, in relation to power as well.
But they are wrong to say that they are now suffering from ill effects from global warming on one hand, and they're also wrong to say that anything Australia does would change that.
Well, as you and others have correctly pointed out, we're only responsible for 1.3% of global emissions. So what we can do in this space is obviously curtailed by that very fact.
Curtailed by reality. That old problem, that fly in the ointment reality. Let's move on to what you really joined me to talk about in this Migration Committee. One of the things you're looking to do as you move around the country is find out how you can encourage more immigrants to settle in regional Australia, hopefully where there are job and opportunities for them, rather than into our congested cities of Melbourne and Sydney. People have tried to do this for decades. How are you going to be more successful?
Well, that's right, Chris. What we're hoping to do is to encourage people from right around Australia, whether they're migrants themselves who've chosen to move to regional areas, whether they're businesses who have job opportunities in regional areas, whether they're state and local governments or other service providers, to tell us of their experience of what's worked that we might be able to learn from in order to roll out further national programs. Now, the government took to the election a range of different policies to encourage regional migration, including a 3-year proposal where if you go and live in a regional area and you work in a skilled job there, there's a pathway to permanent residency. The designated area migration agreements, we've got 7 of those around the country to deal with particular skill shortages, and the bonus additional year that we're providing to working holiday maker visas and students who go to regional areas. So the government has put in place a range of key policies. What we're looking for really is what is the experience on the ground. We know that there are 60,000 jobs going in regional areas, and we know many regional communities are very keen to get migrants to go there. And we also know that there are many parts of Australia where migrants have settled in regional areas very successfully for decades, and we want to learn from the best of that experience.
Yeah, it's a win-win if you can make it happen, because as you say, the regional communities are happy to get the people and fill the jobs, and of course it relieves pressure on our cities. Is it all about carrot? Some people have suggested there should be a stick in this sort of policy, but it's a bit unrealistic, isn't it? It's really got to be carrot. It's got to be about incentives more than anything else.
Well, I think we're looking at a full range of options here, but I like to think that there's a real benefit to living in regional Australia, and that people don't need sticks so much. I think it's really about showing people that the life is good, that there are plentiful job opportunities, and we want to hear from the experience. We want to hear why in some communities people have stayed for generations and why in other communities they've done their time and moved on. And we want to see what are the key factors, and that's why we're encouraging people from regional Australia in particular to make submissions to the inquiry, and we hope to hold hearings around the country to get out of Canberra and out of the capital cities and hear from real people on the ground as to what their experience is of what works and how we can encourage more people to the regional centres. As I said, we spend a lot of time talking about the total number of people that we're bringing into the country. We perhaps don't spend enough time talking about where it is that they're going.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Julian.
Thanks, Chris.